In this section of the podcast, we're going to listen to a recording from Alex Sumray, who has submitted his recording of the story from Level 21, What's More Important, Looks or Ability? Now, for some context here, Alex is doing very well because this is the very first piece of longer form content. It has probably far too many top-down words overall because you want to try to get to 98% comprehension, but at level 21, having any kind of story of substance is pretty tough to do with having that level of comprehension. However, I would say that he did pretty darn well. So let's listen to his version, and at points we can maybe cross-reference it with how Annie and Jerry said it, but still, let's listen to how he did it.
你觉得长相重要还是能力重要?
So that first sentence there is pretty good. When I first started listening to it, the initial thought was like, great start, because that's certainly a Chinese person would understand that. And so let's keep going.
我觉得长相重要一点.
So one of the things I like about what he did there is that a lot of times that sort of, 我觉得长相重要一点. That way that the idiom kind of just sort of trails off towards the end. Like it's actually quite similar to how natives will do it because it's sort of in kind of a fifth tone type of feel to it, even though technically it's 一点, right? But like a lot of times it'll be like 重要一点. It'll be quite quick. So that was good. That tells me that he's properly shadowing and listening to what they're saying. So let's continue.
你看，现在有两个人去找工作.
Yeah, so there I would just say like 现在有两个人, make that 两个人 a little bit clearer. So if we listen back, it kind of he runs through it a little bit quickly. So let's listen to that again.
你看，现在有两个人去找工作.
So it's just a little bit quick, and also 去找工作. He said 工作, right? 工作. Right, that's a first tone, fourth tone is a pretty common tone pair to sort of mess up in a sentence. So no huge deal, but it's certainly like, when you say 做, you want to make sure it's fourth tone. Let's continue.
一个长得好看，但一个长得不好看.
After listening to those two sentences, I would say that there's a fourth tone issue at certain points for Alex. So like he wants to turn fourth tone into a first tone, which is a surprisingly common mistake because I guess it's because fourth tone starts at a similar starting point to first tone. It just falls from there. And it's almost like people never get to the falling part. They just sort of get to the ka, like it should be kan, right? But they start with like the ka, right, up high, and then they just sort of keep it there kan, right? There should be kan, right? That's the idea there, but still, it's still understandable to a Chinese person for sure. So let's continue.
你是老板的话，你会要谁？你说服我了.
Okay, so let's go back to the 你说服我了. 你说服我了. It's this sentence, and let's just go back and listen to him say that again.
你说服我了.
With the 你说服我了, he kind of said 你收服我了. So he kind of he reversed the O and the U. So 说 说, right? He kind of said 你收服我了. And the problem with that is that 收 is actually a pronunciation in Chinese. So just a thing to just change the U and the O there, and then you'll get that correct. Okay, let's continue. We'll continue here to the end, and I'll give my general take on the rest of the section. So let's go back a little bit so we catch where we were again.
长相是很重要，那怎么样可以让一个人长得越来越好看呢？是穿不一样的衣服。对，最近我吃的太多，所以长胖了。那你陪我去买些衣服吧。没问题，我们走吧。对了，这有一家银行，你去不去掉钱呢？不用，现在在中国用手机给钱很方便。
Nice. So overall, very good for level 21. It's like his pronunciation will continue to improve. There were a couple of issues here. Something that's interesting is he said, 所以长胖了, right? And that 胖 there, right? That is actually, he said the fourth tone perfectly there. And he also said, 最近我吃的太多. So ending on a first tone doesn't seem to be too much of a problem. So because we noticed that there were a couple of fourth tones, for example, 工作 or 看, where he wanted to end the sentence on a first tone. And this is kind of one of those things where you naturally fall back into certain habits, but we know that you can say a fourth tone just fine, because when you said 所以长胖了, there was no problem there, right? So what that means is that for sure you can say a fourth tone properly. So just think about when it's at the end of the sentence, still say it in that proper way. Let's see here. I thought it was interesting that when he said 没问题, that was when I could tell he was British, because there was a little bit of the British accent coming in there. Still understandable, no problem. A Chinese person wouldn't having an accent doesn't mean you aren't understandable. Just think of somebody that you know who speaks English with an accent but has pronunciation that's good enough to understand. You don't really think about it too much. You get used to it very quickly. And let's see if there were other things I noticed. There were a couple of things like 这儿有一家银行, right? That bit was a little bit rushed, and so I could see a Chinese person being a little bit confused potentially there. But overall, great stuff. Keep working on this, Alex. Keep doing this shadowing. But as I say, like for level 21, that is not bad at all. So keep it up. And anybody else who'd like to submit audio like this and get critiqued, we'll do it on the podcast.